Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Goffstown Today, a local public affairs series that's being brought to you by the Goffstown Democratic Committee. Our goal in these programs is to provide meaningful discussions of local and state issues of importance to the greater Goffstown community. Today, we're proud to welcome back State Senator Lou D'Alessandro, a longtime friend of Goffstown and our frequent guest on this program, for an update on what's going on in the legislature. The senator has represented District 20, which covers Goffstown and several wards in Manchester, since 1998, and he's currently the dean, the longest serving member of the New Hampshire Senate. This year, he's in his 12th term in office. He played a key role in New Hampshire's finances. Senator D'Alessandro is the former chairman of the Senate Finance Committee and is a current member of both the Senate Capital Budget and Finance Committees, and is vice chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. There's a lot of action going on in Concord this week, with a House meeting and a key deadline to pass its version of the state budget for fiscal 22 and 23 to the Senate looming on Friday. While Governor Sununu's proposal to combine the state's community college and university systems has been put on hold, there's plenty of other controversial issues in the $13.6 billion Republican written spending plan for the two-year budget cycle. Restrictions on the governor's state of emergency powers, business tax cuts that could end up costing the state a lot of matching federal aid, policy changes restricting so-called divisive issues training, funding moves that could restrict Planned Parenthood, and a lot more. So tell us, Senator, how much of this stuff do you think is going to make it to the Senate out of the House, and how much of that is likely to survive in the Senate budget? And what do you think is going to finally make it to the governor's desk?
Well, those are all very interesting questions and bear a lot of discussion and debate. I can say that the House passed House Bill 1 and 2 out of committee. They passed them on purely partisan lines. 12 Republicans voted for it. 9 Democrats voted against House Bill 1, the same for House Bill 2. 12 Republicans for it, 9 Democrats against it. So you have a purely partisan vote. That vote has to be brought to the full House. Ken Weiler is the chairman of the Finance Committee in the House. I've known Ken Weiler for a long time. He's a very honorable guy. Ken said to the group that some policy issues had to be put in to House Bill 2 in order to get enough votes to pass. Very interesting statement on the part of the chairman of the committee. But let's get into House Bill 1 and House Bill 2. Let's talk about the significant changes that will affect people in Goffstown as well as people in the state of New Hampshire, if indeed this bill is passed. And there's great controversy as to whether it's going to be passed or not. First of all, you're going to have everybody show up, and they're meeting off-site in Bedford at the athletic complex. And they're meeting for 3 days, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th. So 3 days, and they've got to get all of their work done, because I don't think they will meet again until late May and maybe early June. So crossover has taken place. All the bills from the Senate are over in the House. The House bills are over in the Senate. So let's talk about significant items that are in this proposal. Let's dwell on taxes for a moment. The American Recovery Act that was passed in Congress by both the House and the Senate, this $1 trillion bill. There's a specific line in this bill that says you cannot use these monies to make up for tax deductions that have taken place in your state. That's an important issue that's going to be litigated. I think there's already litigation beginning on that. Yet that stipulation has been in other federal legislation. So you can't use this money to create tax decreases in your state. So let's talk about the tax decreases first. The most significant taxes we have in the state of New Hampshire are the business taxes, the business profits tax, and the business enterprise tax. The business profits tax is exactly what it says. It's a tax on business profits. Right now, it's at a rate of 7.7%. The largest companies in the state pay the bulk of this tax. The bulk of this tax. Almost 50% of the tax is paid by 60 companies, 60 plus companies. This tax is to be reduced from 7.7 to 7.6%. Significant decrease. The business enterprise tax, which is at 0.60%, will be reduced to 5.5%. The business enterprise tax is a tripartite tax. It's on payroll, interest, and dividends. That tax, significant. When you lower the business enterprise tax to that 5.55 level, what you do is you eliminate any money going into the general fund because all of it goes to the education trust. That's a problem. When you take the rooms and meals tax and reduce it from 9 to 8.5, what you do is you save about between 10 and 12 cents to the consumer. Negligible, absolutely negligible. The interest and dividends tax, which is another significant tax, and those who make the most money pay the interest and dividends tax. All right, and that the level by which you can deduct is increased, and finally the tax is almost phased out. So those are significant changes. When we did the last tax reduction, we ran the risk of losing about $100 million in revenue. This tax isn't going to reduce, these reductions won't reduce our income by that much, but indeed they'll have a significant impact on our revenue stream. We have been very fortunate at this point in time. Our business taxes have been producing. Our real estate transfer tax has produced way beyond expectations, way beyond expectations. People are fleeing urban centers and they're buying properties in New Hampshire. These properties are selling for sometimes 20% above the asking price. Our real estate transfer tax is on the buyer and the seller. That real estate transfer tax, as I said, has been phenomenal in terms of the money it's produced. So at this point in time, our revenues are ahead of plan. And remember, we had to make up for a deficit that occurred in the last fiscal year. So revenues are okay, and yet we're talking about reducing revenues, and this reduction will have a significant impact on our revenue stream. So that's the case as it relates to business taxes. Again, business profits tax, business enterprise tax, the interest and dividends tax, the meals and rooms tax. Those are the taxes that will be affected. Now, in the stimulus package that's coming from the federal government, if you reduce taxes, which you can't based on the law that was brought forth from the federal government, if you do this, you lose the money that's coming our way. And in essence, it could turn out to be a loss of $2 for every dollar in tax reductions. And for New Hampshire, that could mean about a $200 million, and again, in the round numbers, about a $200 million decrease in the amount of money that's coming from the federal government in terms of our package. Now, about $900 million is going to come directly to the state. Monies come to the cities, money comes to the counties. Those aren't going to be affected. The money to the cities and the monies to the counties will not be affected by that statement. It's the money coming to the state that will be affected, we will have the most significant loss. So there's the situation as it relates to tax reductions. And remember, we've reduced taxes. At one time, we had an 8.5% business profits tax, and we had a 6.86% business enterprise tax. Those have been significantly reduced. They went down to 7.9 to 7.7. They went from 0.686 to 0.6. So we've had significant tax reduction in the state of New Hampshire. We have eliminated the electric consumption tax. That cost us $5 million a year. So we've done a good job addressing taxation. We've changed our tax laws to some extent. We now do conformity as we conform to the federal tax laws at a certain period of time. We've put in market-based sourcing. We're going to put in the single sales factor. So we've made significant changes that put us in line with the rest of the country. But the tax reductions have been significant and could play a significant role in the evolution of this next budget. This next budget that goes into place on the 1st of June, if there is a budget. And I think that's an area that's open to discussion. Whether the House will pass what the Republican-dominated House is going to bring forward is questionable at this point in time. We'll find out this week. But that's the tax situation. And people should recognize that a bulk of the taxes in the state of New Hampshire are paid by very few big companies. They pay the bulk of the business profits tax. Significant for us to remember that. And they're fine with the tax situation the way it is. From what I've heard from business and industry, they're very comfortable with the way taxes are right now. And based on the revenues that are coming in, they're doing well. They're making money. And I think that's important for people to recognize and to realize. We're in a very good situation as far as taxes are concerned for the state of New Hampshire at the present time. We don't need to lower from my perspective. We do not need to lower taxes again. Business is moving. Our recovery is moving fairly well. Who's the recovery not doing as well with? It's the little person. It's the little restaurant owner. It's the little eatery that needs to come back, that needs to find a worker, get their, they've been closed for almost a year now. That's the group that we have to help, and that's the group that doesn't really pay the business profits tax. So they need to be helped, and we're doing some things to help. The federal government's doing some things to help them. So that's the tax situation as I see it. Now, the next thing that we wanted to talk about was education, because education is very important to the people of Goffstown. It's very important to the state of New Hampshire. And what's going on with regard to education is really quite interesting. And this is a big change that's taken place. The state of New Hampshire pays for an adequate education. The state of New Hampshire pays each student $3,708.78. That's the base of an adequate education. What we add to the adequate education is a special education recipient aid. We give money for free and reduced price lunch aid. We give money for English as a second language. And we added money for fiscal disparity aid. All of this happened in fiscal year 2021, the fiscal year we're in right now. All of this changes dramatically in the next year. Education funding is based on enrollment. You get paid for the number of students that you have and the number of students that fall into these special categories. That fiscal disparity aid, totaling $62.5 million, will disappear based on this budget, this new budget. It'll disappear. More school building aid is added, and what we're doing is accelerating the payment of the debt that we have. And the debt that we have now was bonded a number of years ago. That bond becomes totally redeemed in 2030. And that was about, let's say it was $100 million bond, and that was school building aid that had been given out. There's money in for retroactive funding for certain full-day kindergarten operations and funding for special education services. But what's the thing that disappears? We have a SWET tax, the statewide property tax. The statewide education property tax is reduced by $100 million. Now, the interesting thing about the statewide education tax is it's given at the local level and maintained at the local level. When you reduce it by $100 million, and this reduction lasts for just 1 year, what does it do? It means the wealthy communities will recognize a savings, because all of this money is retained at the local level. But the lesser communities will have less money to spend on education. Now, what does that mean in the long run? It's a 1-year proposal. And as a result of it, net state tax reductions could result in foregoing federal assistance under the American Rescue Plan. And that's the real danger that I articulated at the beginning of this discussion. There is money set aside for municipal aid. When I chaired the Finance Committee in the last budget section, we set aside $20 million a year for municipal aid. That municipal aid could be spent in any way you want. That municipal aid continues in this budget. But indeed, what appears to be happening in this budget is the education situation much different, the business taxes much different, the policy that's in House Bill 2 much different, policy as it relates to Planned Parenthood, as it relates to the power of the governor to execute an emergency order. These policy statements are contained in House Bill 2. These policy statements really have a dramatic effect on how we run the state. Now, that's a quick précis of what's going on. The big debate will happen tomorrow on the floor of the House when this issue actually comes up for discussion. And remember, it's coming to the floor of the House without one minority vote. Both House Bill 1 and House Bill 2 did not receive one Democratic vote. You know, not unusual. There's always been some kind of disparity between the two, but in many occasions, people have worked hard to get some synergy together so that you can have bipartisan support of a budget. This has no bipartisan support. And as a matter of fact, I think some of the Republicans are very concerned about this budget and whether or not this budget will sustain, and certainly whether or not this budget will pass. But remember, the key elements to the operating budget of the state of New Hampshire are: what has the state of New Hampshire promised to do with regard to its local municipalities? What kind of aid do we return to the municipalities? Where does that aid come from? And the revenue sources clearly are the business taxes, which represent 33% of the revenue for the state of New Hampshire. So you reduce those, you create a problem in terms of sending money back to the locals. Education, the key to education has been and will continue to be the per pupil expense and the add-ons, the special education, the free and reduced price lunch, the learning. If you're not reading at third grade level, that when you're in the third grade, that's a problem, and you get an extra bonus for that. Now, one other item that's big in terms of the controversial situation is, what do you do with the university system of New Hampshire, which is the University of New Hampshire in Durham, Keene State College over in Keene and Plymouth State University in Plymouth. What do you do with them and the community colleges? And we have 7 community colleges located around the state, 2 separate systems. The governor has proposed uniting those systems, creating one board of trustees for that system so that we could arrive at savings. And there are problems, as we know, with post-secondary education throughout the country. The number of kids enrolling has fallen off. We have a decline in the number of the student population. Financing has been a problem. And the governor's proposal was to bring these 2 items together. The House said no. What they did is they put $1.5 million aside to have a study, to study this situation. They created a study group and to bring proposals forward for the unification of the university system. That's strictly contrary to what the governor wanted. The limitation of the governor's powers are certainly contrary to what the governor wanted. And these items are in the operating budget proposal that's going to be brought forth by the Republican majority to the whole House. And let's hope that all 400 members show up for this debate.
It will be interesting, Senator.
Be hot and heavy, Lynn. Hot and heavy. And
Let
you know,
me ask you this if I can.
Absolutely.
Where do you think the pressure is coming from for these kind of, if you say from what you hear from businessmen, nobody's really pushing for these tax reductions. Are there, shall we say, 2022 political reasons that the governor may be pushing some of these things and the Republican Party? It seems it's not beyond the realm of possibility. From where
yeah, there's always a little bit of politics involved, as you say. Sure, 2022 is a big election year. It's a big election year. We have a United States Senator who's up for re-election. We have both the congressional people are up for re-election. Our other U.S. senator has just won her next 6-year term, so she's safe. So sure, politics is right there, and taxes are always part of the issue, right? I mean, taxes, increasing or reducing taxes is always a big issue. But let's look at the reality of the situation. What's best for the people of the state of New Hampshire? What's best for business in the state of New Hampshire? What helps business grow and prosper in New Hampshire? It's a quality workforce. It's a workforce that's knowledgeable, that has good ethical standards, and these things have been omnipresent in New Hampshire. We need more workers now. We know that the workforce is limited, and we've got to perk that up, and workforce development has to be a real key. But sure, of course, politics enters into the situation, and when you're getting ready for a big election year, obviously things like this come to play, and they appear.
Well, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You started to make a point before, Senator.
Oh, no, I'm just saying that budget years in New Hampshire are very, very important because the budget is the key element in the legislative process. We have more policy in House Bill 2 now than we've had for a long time, and that's been the case for the last few bienniums. And when that happens, that package goes up or down, and people don't pay the kind of attention to that they should. Now, the lobbyists do because they want something in there that's going to benefit their clients. But generally speaking, people have to pay attention to these items because they're more meaningful and they present more policy than they have in the past.
Well, let's hope that we can get a few. It would be nice if some of the bigger media in the state paid more attention to it. But I think that you have helped us to shed a great deal of light on the process. So when the budget gets across the Senate, is the breakdown on the Senate side as partisan as the House?
Well, the Senate has 7 members on the Finance Committee, 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats. But it's a good committee. It's a really good working committee. And we will start hearings on the budget on Monday, a week from last Monday. And we're going to meet from 1 to 5 on Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays to go over the budget. And we're going to be at the State House, which that will be there for the first time in over a year. We'll be in the Senate chamber, and we'll be listening virtually to the departments who will be making their presentations. Let's hope that the Senate brings sanity to the process. I have confidence in the chairman of our committee. He's conservative, but hopefully constructively conservative. But it's going to be a tough sled, Lynn. It's not going to be easy. You know, it's just not going to be easy. Remember, we're coming out of a pandemic. We haven't seen each other for over a year. I haven't been in my office since March of last year. I left my office. I haven't been back in my office. I haven't seen my legislative aide for over a year. We've been doing everything virtual. And again, kudos to the Senate staff that has worked so hard on these virtual hearings. Our staff really deserves a tremendous amount of credit. The Senate clerk has worked hard. The Senate staff has worked hard to make all of this happen. The Senate president made a decision that we would meet virtually, would have all of our meetings virtually. They've gone very well. But we're going to come back together starting on Monday. We're actually going to see each other. We're going to take testimony, and we're going to make decisions on the budget. We will be making decisions either on a document that the House has passed us or on a document that the governor has given us. We're going to either work for one item or the other. And hopefully the progress will take place as far as the budget is concerned. But these are tough times. The American Recovery Act, the American Rescue Plan, a lot of money has come to this state. You know, when you look at it, in the vicinity of $3 billion+ has come to the state of New Hampshire. We've got to use it wisely. We've got to use it productively. And hopefully this will be the ingredient that takes our economy and brings it back and moves it forward. And we've been very fortunate. You know, we've been lucky. We've controlled the COVID virus very well. Little problems in the last few days about, you know, rises in the number of cases, but we've controlled it. We've gotten people vaccinated, done a good job with the vaccination. We've kept people out of the State House, which is very important. And people have, generally speaking, have worn their masks and have maintained proper distancing. And all of these are vital if we're going to come out of this thing safe and with the ability to move forward. So,
Senator, I hate to say we're kind of out of time at this point. I'd like to say thank you once again
thank you.
for bringing your not vast knowledge of this process
well,
to
listen,
the people of Goffstown.
well, Len, it's an honor to serve the people of Goffstown. Great to work with you and the other Democrats, and actually to work with everybody in Goffstown, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. We're all in this together, and the survival of our state and the production of a positive economy is it's in all of our best interest, and we all should be working together to make good things happen. And that's what I think good politics is all about. And hopefully we're going to make that, we're going to keep going, and we're going to do good things.
Let us hope so, Senator. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Len.
Just like to tell everyone out there that you can watch these programs here on Goffstown TV. We also carry them on the Goffstown Democrats YouTube channel. They're sometimes posted on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/GoffstownDems. Please like them. Please share them widely. Thank you very much for watching.